And with that, and I had anticipated that response, and I had copied the section of the script from the original movie Miracle on 34th Street. The United States Postal Service is the largest business concern in the country. It was founded in, and I kept going. I had it all written out. It wasn't done by memory. And by the time I was done, the judge, who had also obviously seen the movie, decided that if it was good enough for the United States government, it was good enough for him, held that if he lived there, the insurance company was responsible for paying the medical benefits. And to this day, as far as I know, that case is still referred to in the court as the Miracle on 34th Street case.
Hello and welcome to the Attorney Post, where we give you the inside scoop with top attorneys in their field. And now, here's our host, Justin West.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Attorney Post, where we discuss what's going on in various facets of the law with lawyers at the top of their game to help you navigate the various ins and outs of various legal fields and jurisdictions. Because, as I always say, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. Today, I'm very pleased to be joined by Dana Friedman, who runs the eponymous law firm that bears his name, the law offices of Dana B. Friedman, attorneys at law in New York City. Dana, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. How about yourself?
You know, I can't complain, and when I do, nobody listens anyway, so good enough, I guess. Well, before we get started, we're going to jump over and take a look at Dana's site. You can visit him online. It is KF Law NYC. So I was on my side screen. It was really tiny. I had it written down somewhere else in my notes, but I was trying to read it off the side screen here. KFLawNYC.com. Dana did say beforehand, this is the website. It's a newer site. It's a work in progress, so don't judge him by it. But there's a curious picture of Santa Claus at the bottom. We're going to kind of dig into why Santa Claus is there later too, because I think that'll be an interesting aspect of what Dana does. But it is a full-service civil litigation law firm based out of New York City, working principally in the city itself. And again, if you have any questions or if you are in need of civil litigation, including but not limited to personal injury, business and real estate, as well as family law, you can reach out to Dana at his website. And we will, as always, have his website down below in the links. You can also call 212-964-6622. That's 212-964-6622. And again, we will have links to his website, his phone number, and physical location down below in the box for you guys. So before we get started, as always, we're going to read from our sponsors. Our first sponsor today is Groove Funnels. Listen up, entrepreneurs and dream chasers. Running an entire business online doesn't have to mean drowning in a subscription of tech stacks and tangled mess. Groove.cm is now offering a limited type deal that is too good to ignore. You can get 30 days for free and then get your entire first year for $2.99, which is less than what most people pay monthly for a single tool like ClickFunnels. You can build stunning websites with Groove pages, launch high converting funnels, run email campaigns, manage e-commerce sites, and even start your own affiliate program all in one spot. No more Frankensteining tech stacks, no more monthly billing chaos. Over 1 million users have already joined the movement, yours truly included, saving thousands of dollars and scaling faster with Groove's all-in-one powerhouse platform that replaces thousands of tools or hundreds of tools you might be using. Tools like ClickFunnels and Kartra and ActiveCampaign and Aweber and Go High Level and WordPress and Squarespace and all of these different things. All of these different tools can be replaced by this one tool, which I think is just absolutely amazing. And again, there's no risk, there's no contracts, just results. You can try it for 30 days for free. And actually right now, they've literally changed what they're doing. They're now offering, again, free for life. So literally the ad read that I have has changed as of this morning. They're actually offering free for life. I know on the back end, they're going to give you an upsell that lets you pay for a lifetime of a few accesses to things. I'll tell you that right now. But you can actually get started with them for free, no credit card needed. And it looks like you can have it for free for life indefinitely. So there's really nothing to lose out on. Visit theattorneypost.com/groove to get started today for free, no credit card required. That's theattorneypost.com/groove. We will have a link to that down below in the website, in the description as well. That's theattorneypost.com/groove. Our second sponsor for today is Habanero Social. What if Google could send you free clients every single month? With Habanero Social, it's not a fantasy, it's reality. Habanero Social is an AI-powered platform that optimizes your Google business profile to attract more local customers effortlessly. From cranking out high-quality content to managing reviews and fine-tuning your local SEO, Habanero Social handles all of it while you sit back and watch your business grow. 95% of searchers never leave page 1 of Google. 85% of local searches happen in the Maps pack on page 1. That's the place you need to be if you want to capture those clients. An optimized Google business profile doesn't just show up, it engages, it builds trust, it increases clicks, and ultimately it boosts your business and your ROI. And in fact, they're so confident that what they do will work, they offer a 3 times ROI guarantee. If you don't make at least 3 times more money than you spend with them, they'll refund your money or they'll work for free for an entire year to make it right. Stop wasting time on old school tactics. Habanero Social automates everything you need to rank higher, engage better, and drive more clients to your business. Are you ready to get started? Without lifting a finger, visit habanerosocial.com right now and let AI do the heavy lifting for you. That's habanerosocial.com. And again, as always, we will have links to our sponsors down below. All righty, let me kill this screen share here, and we will jump back over here. All righty. So again, I'm joined by Dana Friedman, and Dana is a distinguished civil litigation attorney based out of New York City. He focuses again on all areas of civil litigation, including but not limited to personal injury, business, real estate, as well as family and divorce law, with a distinguished career spanning over 40 years in areas such as divorce, child custody, spousal support, etc. His legal acumen is further broadened by handling of civil matters that include, again, personal injury, trusts, estates, probates, landlord disputes, tenant disputes, real estate transactions, etc., which makes him an especially well-equipped mediator when family issues intersect with broader legal concerns. Remarkably, Friedman has also built a reputation as Santa Claus, organizing toy drives since 9/11 to support children of first responders and New York City families. In doing so, he brings a sense of joy and empathy to his community in his outreach, often noted for his warm approach and genuine connection with children during the holiday setting. And of course, he definitely has a little bit of a Santa Claus look to him as well, which is wonderful. Balancing decades of legal experience with heartfelt community engagement, Friedman stands out not as a professional merely, but as a compassionate public figure. Known for this blend of expertise and character, can help you connect more with other people as well, help them connect with you. So Dana, my very first question to you is simply this. That was a lot to say, but I'm sure I missed so much in there I could have said. So my first question to you is, what did I miss?
What did you miss? Good question, but it's a difficult answer. I've been practicing for 40 plus years. I took over the firm from my father, who practiced for several decades before. Both he and his cousin were the original Kleinberg and Friedman. We've maintained a practice with a focus on helping our clients, helping our long-term clients, and we have second and third generation clients. So we're very proud of that. We keep our clients tight. We keep them as family, and that's something that we strive for, and I think we succeed rather well.
Nice. So I guess question number 2, and obviously I've done some research on you. I showed your website. I read through a little bit of what you do, but give me your pitch for your firm, right? Tell me specifically, who do you help? Where do they live? Why do they find you? And why do they choose to work with you?
Well, the firm has been established since 1946. And we like to think of ourselves as the old-time family lawyer. We serve our community. Sorry, my printer just kicked on for some reason. And I have no idea why. My hands are here. I'm trying to think of a good answer for you. I'm sorry. That just distracted me entirely.
No, that's okay.
I'm going to defer to you for your question. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Well, the question is just, again, why do people choose to work with you? What sets you apart? And who are your principal clients? And I know that your website, we looked at it a minute ago, talks about, business, corporate, divorce, personal injury, and spousal support. So it seems like there's a whole realm of things in there. Give me your pitch, right? Who do you found? Where are they located? Who, if they're listening to this, should know, hey, that's the guy I need to contact, and why should they choose to work with you?
Predominance of our clients are in the New York City or Long Island areas, Nassau and Suffolk County. When I use the term family lawyers, I'm not referring to family law, but we become the attorneys for entire families. We have never advertised. Everything is word of mouth, and the fact that we've been here for several decades shows that it works fine. People are very happy with the services that we provide. Most of our clients are predominantly based in the 5 boroughs. but now, a little more as of late in Nassau, Suffolk counties.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Is there a stigma, by the way? This is a totally random question, but I mentioned the pre-roll. I have a client who's in New York City, and he's like, we want Long Island. We want to focus on Long Island, Nassau, Suffolk counties, but we don't really care as much. Well, I don't want to say that. I don't care how I say this because I don't want him to sound like a jerk. He's like, we don't focus on Staten Island. Is Staten Island like the unspoken of borough, or is it just very different? Because I don't actually know New York. I know it virtually by proxy of having worked for clients in the New York area for a long time. I'm familiar with it, but I don't know. Like, is there a stigma behind Staten Island?
There is to some degree, pretty much because of proximity. It's so close, but it's so difficult to get to. Uh, one of the
Ah,
one of the stigmas is not necessarily location, but the monetary jurisdictions of each venue. Manhattan, the Bronx will come in for generally a higher settlement or judgment on a case than say Manhattan. And Manhattan maybe more so than Brooklyn. Queens may be on a par with Brooklyn. Staten Island significantly less. Nassau,
gotcha.
as you go out, Suffolk County would end up being less than a Nassau County case, which would be less than a city case. So a lot of attorneys would focus on going to the Bronx, and I've tried several cases in the Bronx. Uh, you know, it comes out to you sitting and pick and choose. Well, I can get more money for my client, which of course generates more money for the firm, but you get more money for a client depending on venue. Sometimes we can select the venue depending upon what the situation is with the case, and we'll focus that way.
Gotcha. Gotcha. That makes sense. That's actually kind of what I suspected, but I didn't ever have anybody tell me that directly. So that makes sense. Both the difficulty to travel, but also the potential settlement pool, I guess we'll say, for lack of a better term. So Dana, let me ask you this question. What got you into law? Now, obviously, your dad was a lawyer. His cousin was a lawyer. So there is a family pedigree, but did you always know you wanted to be an attorney? And did you always know you wanted to go into the family business? Or is this something that you kind of stumbled into later in life?
The answer was I did not want to be an attorney. I actually I grew up. I wanted to be an astronaut, and I ended up working my way through with NASA. When Challenger unfortunately went down, they said we're not going to be flying for a while. I had already had a degree from law school, so I ended up going to work with my dad full time at that point. That was, I think, 86, 83, if I remember. It was the early 80s. Um, I had actually worked in my father's firm since probably 5 years of age. In those days, photocopying machines took up an entire room, and it was a litany of like the old scientists going, knob to knob and what have you. So as a young kid, I reveled in dealing with machinery. So I became the photocopy clerk in the office, and before age 12, I was writing pleadings, and um, I remember taking the bar exam and going, "Oh, I remember what case that is," and answered the question accordingly, and obviously did well enough to pass. So I didn't necessarily want to be a lawyer, but I sort of became one just by virtue of what I had been exposed to all that time.
Via happenstance and a happy happenstance it seems to have been you clearly seem to have hit your stride and found your calling. So I mean clearly 40 years in.
I do enjoy it, and I do. I know it sounds cheesy, but I do like the aspect of helping people out. Uh, you
I
know,
mean that's huge. Absolutely. If you want to feel like what you're doing makes a difference, and I'm sure especially in the PI space, but in any aspect of law, but I know in the PI space in particular, you can see the difference you make in somebody's life. Like, hey, I lost a limb and I'm never going to be able to work the same job again, but at least I don't have to worry as much about it. Like that, you help people put the pieces back together. I've always been a big fan of PI law, personal injury law, for my listeners who know that, but. Um, so let me ask you, this is a question I didn't ask you in the pre-roll, or didn't go over, but I am curious. It's already been half a decade, but 5 years ago, everything shut down because of a particular pandemic that we'll not name just in case YouTube still censors things that use the word that must not be named. But I'm curious because I talk to people in various places all the time, and they always have very different experiences. So what was your experience during the shutdown, during the pandemic? Did it affect your practice? Did it affect what you guys did? Did you notice a change in things like, for instance, car accidents? Did they go down significantly in New York City because there were fewer drivers and whatnot?
the answer is yes. There were fewer car accidents, far fewer trip and fall cases. However, as the personal injury aspect declines, needless to say, the divorce rate increased. So what we lost on the swings, we gained on the roundabout, so to speak. Um, Also, during that time, I ended up becoming not just an attorney, but a mediator. So I took those courses, passed and everything, and it's really not that different from what I do on a regular basis. Being a mediator allowed me the opportunity to sit between two people and take both sides and try and work out and formulate a deal, which is basically what we're doing with the stipulations, the settlements, and divorce cases, and just proceed. It's just another tool in the belt.
Gotcha. Yeah, I actually had a couple of clients in New York City over the years, and one of them had commented to me during the pandemic that he was in a building. Now, I put this in perspective. I live in a town that's 7 square miles and like 12,000 people. He's in a building, and the building regularly saw, I want to say, 80,000 people a day go through it, because they count the traffic and whatnot. And he said in the height of the pandemic, it was like 187 people per day that would go through the building, and that includes the staff and the security and everything else. Like it was a ghost town. It was the weirdest and most eerie thing he'd ever experienced, was just how empty New York felt for being New York City. But I find that absolutely fascinating. That imagery that he described still to this day sticks in my head as one of the most, and I didn't even experience it. It was one of the most memorable aspects of that weird time half a decade ago, and it still is hard to believe it was half a decade ago. But it was two presidential administrations ago, but yet also the same. Also one presidential administration. It's funny how that works out. But I leave politics out of my show. I like to note it. So.
I remember I was in court on March 16th, which is the day they shut down the courts. And it was a complete disarray. Nobody knew where to go and what to do. And my case is on, it's on the calendar, and it's showing up, but there's just nobody in the room. And I'm going to the clerk's office. And ultimately, they announced they were shutting down the court. And I literally was the last non-court employee out the door trying to find my case. It was different. It's still to this day. It's very different. We never had Zoom court appearances. There was a lot of confusion, a lot of mix up with the court system. They've got it down pretty good so far at this point. But even just the other day, I went to serve papers on the city, and the clerk's office is only open on Tuesdays and Thursdays between certain hours, and now you can file your papers online, which in a sense makes it a little bit easier, but you're losing that personal touch with things. I like the clerks know me and I know them, and when you can't see them, it's it's all to the wind.
Yeah. We actually, I rebooted the podcast 5 years ago because all of a sudden everyone was home and everyone knew how to Zoom. All of a sudden, we did this podcast is over a decade old, and we actually lost it a while ago due to a duplicate content issue, which doesn't really matter. And so I just let it sit by the wayside. But we used to have to talk everyone through downloading software like we used to use Google Hangouts back in the day, which was a really awkward software to use. But the pandemic brought about everyone knowing how to Zoom all of a sudden. I have to talk people through downloading Zoom and running Zoom and installing Zoom. And so it made it kind of a shoe-in. So that's one of the things that changed for us, which I think is kind of neat to see how everything kind of went virtual. And I think that a lot of that will stick with us, which is nice. So let me ask you this, Dana. And if I ever call you Dana, I apologize again. I've known people with both versions of the name. So this is
Right.
Dana Friedman. I feel like I called you Dana a minute ago. If I did, I'm sorry. So you've been practicing law for 40 years, which is impressive. I'm not going to tell you that I'm in my 40s, so you've been practicing law as long as I'm alive. I won't tell you that. But I'm a firm believer that if you step up to bat long enough, nobody bats 1,000. And I'm sure in your legal career, you've probably had some swings and misses. You've probably had some moments that felt like a failure. Maybe it was something big, like a decision you thought was going to go your way or your client's way that didn't. Maybe it was you just forgot to fill out the paperwork the right way. But what's one of your moments in your legal career that you would consider a failure? But what did you learn from that? And how do you, keep that in mind and carry that forward to make sure you're always giving the best care to your clients?
Well, there's sorry, one second.
Nope.
Just interrupted by a call, which I just terminated. One of my, I think probably one of my first losses was a case where, well, when clients don't give you the full story, that becomes a serious roadblock. And I had a case where to start my video. Okay. Okay, sorry, I just message from you there. I had a client who, shall we say, was not forthright in the situation that happened. A woman had fallen down the stairs. Supposedly the lights were out in the hallway and what have you. There had been some question raised by the defendant of spousal abuse and whether this gentleman had pushed his other half down the stairs as opposed to her tripping and falling in the dark. And I can recall to this day when they brought the nun, literally brought the nun to testify as to what she saw. And my client kind of neglected to tell me about the witness that saw him give her a push. And when you have a nun testifying, they're pretty much going to believe her. And I recalled back to the last, this going back a long time, but I remember the very last day of law school. My civil procedure teacher was giving a lecture, and he says, "Okay, you have a nun that is testifying." And I'm like, "Oh my God, it's actually happening." I said, "You have a nun that is testifying against you. What do you do?" And everybody's raising their hand and giving answers. And he was now, and everybody was wrong. And I'm sitting in the back of the class, and I'm thinking, and I'm sure you've had this experience where you think you're saying it in your head, but you're actually saying it out loud. And I'm sitting at the desk. I'm thinking, you get rid of her. And the class goes quiet because all of a sudden I've spoken out of turn. This professor was, rigid in his rules. And he screeches, "You get rid of her? You get rid of her?" And the class is hysterical laughing. And I'm like trying to slide under the desk. And he says, "What are you all laughing at? He's 100% right. You get her off the stand. You say, 'Thank you very much.' Get her off the stand and try and do damage control." And with that, he shuts his book, and law school was over. and it happened in real life.
That's funny. That's funny. So remember, if you're listening out there, having a nun as a witness is a good habit.
As long as it's on your side.
On your side, as a witness on your side is a good habit. It's a bad habit on the other side. Actually, I know some nuns. I know some sisters in the Sisters of the Franciscan Sisters of the Renewal, the CFRs. I have a friend that's out there. She sang at my wedding. It's actually my wife's friend, but she sang at our wedding years ago. So Sister Mary Pieta, if you're out there, hello, and go help attorneys. Well, the flip side of that coin, Dana, is success. I am sure that in 40 years of law, you have had some outstanding results for your clients. You've had some wins, maybe wins where you thought everything was aligned against you, like there's no way we're going to do this. And then not only did you win, but you pulled out a bigger win than you thought you were going to get. Or, maybe it's just watching people put the pieces back together. But can you share with my listeners maybe one or two times in your legal career where you've had successes that you would consider the proverbial feather in your cap, so to speak, the things that when you lay down at night and you put your head on your pillow, other than thinking about being Santa Claus, the things you think of that you're very proud of in your legal career? What's one or two of those?
I can give you two stories in particular. One was actually the very first case that I tried. Aetna Insurance had terminated no-fault benefits for a young child who was traumatically, she didn't have a physical injury, but she had a traumatic injury from the accident psychologically. And this young lady had gone, probably age 9, give or take. She had gone to a child psychologist, a very well-known child psychologist, who had recommended she goes to a small school, individualized instruction, small classes. And basically she described a private school, and that's where little Nancy was going to school. Won't say her last name. And Aetna was paying for the education until one day they stopped, and we sued Aetna to resume payment. And we went to battle in court, and I came in and did what I did best, interjected humor, gave the judge several riddles. When is a shoe not a shoe? When is a pool not a pool? When it's a bed not a bed? And before I got held in contempt, because I was pretty new at all this, I said, and when is a school not a school? And as the gavel comes up, I said, when it's prescribed by a doctor, then it's in the course of medical treatment, as were all the other things. And the gavel never hit the table. By the time I was done, the attorneys for Aetna stopped laughing. I changed no-fault law to include cases like this. and off we went. And I remember coming back to the office, and everybody was like, "What the hell did you do?" And made the law journal first time out. It's like, okay, that was interesting. The second case, and since you referenced Santa Claus, you'll appreciate this. I had to prove that this gentleman Eddie he lived with his girlfriend, but they did not own a car, and they didn't live in a household that owns a car, and that pertains to no fault insurance, whether which carrier would cover you for your medical benefits. So here it is. Eddie lived in a household, did not own a car, but it was a two-family house, probably an illegal apartment. And the owner of the house who lived upstairs owned a car, while the insurance company was trying to foist the liability for the payments on the landlord's insurance, even though there was no nexus or no connection between the two. So I came in and I proved that Eddie lived at this particular address. Oh, and they also tried to put it on Eddie's parents because, well, he had lived in his parents' house, obviously, until he moved out. So I had to prove Eddie lived at a particular address, and I pulled up a letter and say, here's Eddie, mail to Eddie at this address, and here's subscriptions to Eddie at this address, and bills to Eddie at this address, and I submitted them for evidence to show his address. Of course, on top of the testimony and everything else. And the other side said, that's all well and good, but a couple of letters don't prove that he lives there. And with that, and I had anticipated that response, and I had copied the section of the script from the original movie Miracle on 34th Street. The United States Postal Service is the largest business concern in the country. It was founded in, and I kept going. I had it all written out. It wasn't done by memory. And by the time I was done, the judge, who had also obviously seen the movie, decided that if it was good enough for the United States government, it was good enough for him, held that Eddie lived there. The insurance company was responsible for paying the medical benefits. And to this day, as far as I know, that case is still referred to in the court as the Miracle on 34th Street case. So
I as soon as you said that, I knew where that was going, but that's awesome. And the only thing better is if you would have had a big bag of mail to dump out or something.
Well, my paralegal was ready with it.
I hope you would have put on the suit for that one. So
no, that was way before that whole aspect of my life.
Well, let's dive into that aspect actually right now, and then we'll come back to the law stuff because I'm curious about it. And since we're on the topic of jolly old Saint Nicholas, you have been dressing up as Saint Nicholas. You've been a Santa Claus for New York City's first responders or for their children since 9/11, which again is one of those things that feels like it wasn't that long ago. Most of us who were alive then, we remember where we were. I was in American history class in college, and I came back, and one of my friends like, dude, a plane just flew into one of the towers. I'm like, no, I did not believe him. I thought he was just making it up because he would do stuff like that. And I'm like, no, there's no way. And he's like, dude, it's on the TV right now. So we go in there, and we watch, and we're watching, and then we see the second one hit. And it was a moment I think anyone who was alive at the moment will remember, like the JFK assassination for those who were alive for that, or the Challenger explosion. There's a handful of those moments that are really, really poignant. So ever since then, since 9/11, you have been Santa Claus for the children of these first responders. How did you get into that? Why did you get into that? What does that entail? Tell me about that, and how has it shaped your perspective on, I don't know, resilience and even in service in the legal field?
Well, the way it all started was my paralegal, and my office is literally across the street from the World Trade Center. And after the dust had settled and the devastation was out there for quite some time, obviously, my paralegal, Pat Florio, and I were looking out the window at this disaster, and we decided to do something to give back to the first responders, but couldn't figure out what we could do that nobody could put their hand in the till. And that was the important part. We didn't want anybody to, what we're doing, we wanted direct input. So she looked at me and she goes, well, you're fat enough. Why don't you get a Santa suit and give him Santa Claus? And that's pretty much verbatim what the dialogue was. I did not have a beard. I had dark hair, no mustache, no beard. And I thought about it. We called up a couple of places, and I ended up later that day buying a Santa suit, and contacted the police department and the fire department and offered our services gratis. And they took us up on it. It was a lot of fun. And surprisingly, I figured it would last for a year, maybe two at the outside. and we just kept getting asked to come back. And then other people, like that company, which will not be named, and so on and so on. They'll tell two people, and they'll tell two people. We ended up expanding out to hospitals and orphanages, and it just proliferated. We've been Santa for St. Mary's Children's Hospital, Blythedale Children's Hospital, um, Forestdale, which is an adoption home, and it gets bigger and bigger. Adding on to that, now people came to me and said, "Well, we want to hire you as Santa," and I'm like, "Well, I'm not a party Santa. I mean, I'll come to your party and what have you, but I'm not doing it for money." And he said, "Well, we'll pay you." I didn't want to get paid. That wasn't the point of it. It was to give back to the community. So then I got the bright idea. You know what? If you pay me, I'll buy toys and donate the toys. And we ended up doing toy drives. There was a shopping mall in Queens that had a lot of empty spaces. They gave us a storefront. We built Santa's Workshop during COVID, where kids couldn't come in to see Santa, but they could look through the window and see Santa actually working on toys. And I do a lot of crafting and art stuff as a hobby. So they saw me actually making things, and things that I was making were actually gifts for other people. So they got the full experience, and they got to stand in front of the window and take a picture, which, if you did it the right way, came across as being in Santa's Workshop. So it worked out well. And I do remember going to, I think it was Blythedale Children's Hospital up in Valhalla, New York, and dropping off truckloads of toys. And it was a wonderful experience.
I believe this is you, if I'm not mistaken,
All
New York Santa.
That is me. All of those pictures are me. The Ghostbuster picture you saw was Slimer. I ended up hooking up with the New York Ghostbusters. So now Santa is an official Ghostbuster, and my first appearance each year has been the New York Halloween Parade, where Santa rides
Nice.
Ecto-1. So it's
Right.
far-reaching. The
You
next
know what's
picture.
really funny? Just gonna throw this really quickly. I live in Atchison, Kansas, little tiny town. We have a parade every year. It's usually our Christmas parade. It's early on in the season. But we have a whole contingent of Ecto-1s. Like there's a whole contingent of like Ghostbusters people out here that like drive, and they've got their sound and the lights and everything else, which is really funny. So, and then usually at the end of that parade is our Santa Claus too. So we'll just have you come out to the little tiny town of Atchison, Kansas someday and bring it up. Anyway, continue though. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, you went by with the two Marines on either side. The shorter of the two Marines was the Marines kickboxing champion.
Oh
And
wow.
looking at this tiny guy, and I'm thinking to myself, he could probably kill me with a pinky. Just
So
see me.
what is your business life look like when we get to the end of October? Do you just take a couple months off and go into Santa mode and then resume emerge like the groundhog from his burrow in January, or do you just kind of work it in your off time? How does that all play out?
Absolutely not. We continue with the practice. Obviously, full-time law waits for nobody. I do a lot of prep work. A lot of my paperwork is done in advance. Things are timed to go out at certain intervals. I try and reschedule court appearances around my Santa appearances. I had one particular case, which you might find funny. I was called in real quick to do a night court case, and I was on my way to a charity event. So I'm in full Santa regalia, and I have to go to court. So I grabbed my elves, which were my paralegals, all dressed as elves, I might add, and I threw on a black trench coat. It was a small claims court. I came into court and taking it all seriously. And I approached the bench wearing the coat, and the judge looks at me and says, "Take off your coat." I said, "I'd rather keep it on, Your Honor." And he looks over the bench, and he sees the red cuffs of the pants. Now he directs me to take off the coat. So I took off the coat, and there's the Santa, no hat, mind you, but there's the Santa suit. And he looks at me and he says, "Would you care to explain?" And I said, "No, I'd rather not," because I didn't want to prejudice the case in my favor. I mean,
Yeah.
so he said, "Well, explain anyway." I said, "Well, I'm on my way to a charity event, and got called in to cover the case for another attorney. So here I am. And he goes, didn't you have a suit to put on? I said, well, this is the suit that I have at the moment. We tried the case as Santa. Needless to say, we won. But
Nobody wants to side against Santa.
I decided against Santa, but I was really trying not to use the Santa persona to win the case. I didn't really have too much of a choice.
Right. That is hilarious. Gosh, that's amazing. I was hoping to see a picture of the actual toy, the toy shop. That's actually why I Googled you really quickly just to see if I could find it. I see there's more media. So there's probably just tons and tons of pages I can find here. So this is nysanta.org. I'll put a link to this down below in the description as well, because this is fascinating. And you clearly are an iconic staple of New York, like the what's the naked cowboy downtown, right? There's a couple of things when people think of unique personas in New York City, but Santa Claus is one of them. And I didn't even realize when we had booked this call that I'm talking to, one of New York's favorite, absolute favorite Santa Clauses, which is amazing. So that is wonderful. I know we're having a camera issue on your end over there. So if Dana keeps dropping off, I apologize, guys. He'll be back on. I think he's here. His camera just keeps dying for whatever reason. So there we go.
All right, there we go. No, as calls come in and they get routed this way, I keep planning them, but unfortunately it interrupts.
It drops the camera. That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. So, all right. So let me kill the screen again. Although again, so NewYorkSanta.org, nysanta.org. We'll have a link down below. You guys can take a look and read all about it. And hey, if you wanna hire him to be your Santa, he gets paid in toys, and those toys go to a good cause. So feel free to reach out to him as well. nysanta.org. That's kind of one of the neatest things. That's the high point of my day. I'm going to tell my kids that tonight I got to talk to Santa Claus, and they're going to not believe me. And then I'll show them your picture, and then they'll believe me.
I've
Which is
actually
awesome.
been sent to the courts, and on the family courts, they'll have a children's room when their parents are litigating their case. The children are kept elsewhere. So I'll come in as Santa. And what's interesting is when I put on the regular suit and I come back into court, the judges who've seen me as Santa, they'll look at me and they don't recognize it's the same person. It's like Superman putting on the glasses and people, oh, that's Clark Kent. How do you not know?
Where was he? I just saw him here. I don't know. That's awesome. Well, Daniel, let's jump back into your legal career. Again, you've been working for over 40 years. I'm curious what shifts you've seen. I know you do a lot of family law, you do a lot of all sorts of things, civil litigation. What has changed? What are the biggest changes that you've seen in your practice of New York law? Have they been in the PI side with things like the rise of technology and texting? Has it been in family law cases with social media? Has it been certain laws that came down the pipeline that changed everything in one way or the other? What are some of the biggest changes that you've seen in the legal system in your career?
Well, sort of prior to my career, I think the biggest change in New York law was the creation of no fault. So that set up certain time limitations that you need to file certain paperwork. It limits what the insurance companies will pay out as far as medical bills. Of course, I'm giving you a very overbroad answer to no fault. I could go on for hours on no fault law. I'm not a fan of it, but it's something that we have, and it's something we have to deal with. What clients need to understand is there are certain time limitations to get paperwork in, and while they want to dawdle, certain things need to be filed, certain time limitations in 90 days, others are 30 days. And, it becomes problematic with clients. As far as the changes in the law, so far I've been very, very pleased with what we have. Other than the no fault, in the matrimonial aspect of things, of course, numbers change as far as limitations with support. I'm not one of the things with domestic violence. There's always the presumption that the male is the antagonist, and that's not always necessarily so. Males generally are not awarded custody of children. I've had several cases where I've been able to change that and get the husband or the father rather to be the main parent or main custody holder for the child. it's slowly changing. It's evolving, like everything else. It's evolving. I've not had any cases, but I know now there were several on the books of same-sex matrimonial actions, which is really shouldn't be treated any different than any traditional marriage. So I think the law is doing okay in that regard.
Gotcha. I hear tell that the Supreme Court might be revisiting the Obergefell decision. I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are on that. You don't have to be overly political about it, but if they were to reverse that decision, what would that do for same-sex individuals in New York City? Would their marriages no longer be just recognized at the federal level, or would it potentially could New York itself still issue same-sex marriages? They just wouldn't be recognized, as you couldn't file jointly on your taxes or something like that, or how would that work out? And are there workarounds like civil unions and things like that? I'm legitimately just kind of curious about this, and it's kind of a breaking topic right now.
One of the workarounds, of course, is being able to file as a domestic partnership. But the question then becomes, would that be allowed? I think that's I'd like not to see it overturned. I'd like to see it continue. I think that there's the standing joke. I think a same-sex couple should have the same rights to be as miserable as a traditional couple. I I think that overturning it would. I mean, what are you going to do? If you have a couple that's married and then now you're going to take that right away, do they now become unmarried? It's like I've had a case where a divorce was overturned and the couple is one of the parties is already remarried. Well, now are they a bigamist or is the second marriage void, not voidable, but void? And where does that leave that marriage? So that's in the past has become an issue. So it would be interesting to see what happens if they overturn that.
That was one of the things I was curious about. Is it going to like de facto annul every marriage that's happened, or again annul it only in the eyes of the state of the not even the state, but of the federal government, or how that would play out? Like I'm not going to get into the politics of it on either side on my part. You're welcome to talk about it as you like, but I just find that the legal concept itself, it's going to be thorny and it's going to raise issues no matter what happens, I think. But we'll see what
Yeah,
comes of that.
I think what's going to happen is valid when made. It's going to stand as being valid. You may not
Yeah.
be able to do it going forward, but if the speed limit is,
Grandfather did or something like that.
yeah.
Quite literally. Now you said, especially in the midst of COVID, you made a shift towards mediation. I hear in New York, mediation is gaining traction as opposed to or compared to litigation. What's the most common problems you help mediate? What are the most common mistakes people make when entering into mediation unprepared?
In a matrimonial action, mediation, it's money. It always comes down to money. You have to know what their finances are, what their finances have been, who's the moneymaker in the family, how it gets divided, what the number of children are, of course, a factor for child support, because it increments up the number of kids that you have. You've got the basis of people make mistakes by not being prepared and filling out or correctly showing what their financial disclosure is.
Gotcha. Hang on, I just closed out my questions tab. I don't know where it went. I just had it up. Come here. Oh, there it is. I found it. There we
I
go.
will say mediation is a very viable thing. People come to me and we work out a deal from both parties. If I'm successful, nobody's happy.
I was looking for a good headshot of you, and I saw Opt-in Mediation Group. Is that a group that you're still tied to currently, or is that
It is.
all right? Well,
Yes.
you know what? I'll just show that as well. There's a great headshot of Dana right there with the Opt-in Mediation Group, and I might put a link that if I remember, that is optinmediationgroup.com. So you can reach out to Dana that way as well. But obviously, you can just go to his main website, which is again kflawnyc.com. The K and the F are for Kleinberg and Friedman, I would assume. So it took me a minute to figure that out earlier. Like KF, wait, what is KF? I said, well, there's an F here. It took me a minute for you see the penny circling and circling, and the penny just wouldn't drop for a minute, but it finally did. So, so Dana, what are I don't know, I have like 50 different questions I could ask, and there's so many different areas I want to talk about. And I want to be respectful of your time because we're already crossing about that hour point. So probably ask you just maybe one or two more questions, and then we'll jump into our closing questions. But how do you see things like, so for instance, AI is a big thing right now. Everyone's talking about AI, its ramifications in law. Chat GPT 4, which they're on 5, but 4 apparently passed the bar. Is that changing mediation? Is it changing family law? Is it changing your practice? And do you see it becoming a factor in what you do? Or are there any other technologies, whether it's cameras? I like everyone else, I've got one of these little boxes in my pocket all the time now. And when I'm scrolling on it occasionally, as you do, I'll see videos of insurance fraud where somebody like pulls their car in front of a truck and then backs into it to pretend to be hit. But of course, there's a rise in cars that have built-in cameras or people getting dash cams and everything else. What are the technologies that are changing and shaping the way that law is working, particularly in New York City?
The fact that everybody has a camera, and like you said, a lot of cars have cameras. It's helping out. It's definitely helping to reduce insurance fraud, which I'm very happy of. It is actually helping me prove cases. If I have somebody who's in an accident and I can show that the other car is at fault, a lot of times that will resolve the matter quickly, if not instantaneously, which is nice. Um, it also allows me, because I do a lot of the investigatory work for the office. I have investigators as well, but sometimes I want that firsthand. I want to see it for myself. And if I can't explain it to you, if I can't explain it to a 6-year-old, I can't explain it to a jury. If I can't explain it to a jury, I'm not going to get the verdict that I want. So I'll go out, I'll do the investigatory work, my pictures and what have you. I'm not overly partial to AI. And the reason is I think it brings up to a lot of question of what's reality and what's created. And I've not used AI in the presentation of anything for the office. I've done it, for my own entertainment value, but there's the ability for too much manipulation, and it puts doubt in people's heads. It puts doubt in my mind. If it puts doubt in my mind, it's going to put doubt in yours.
Absolutely. I saw a study yesterday, and I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but it was people reading, they're using AI in medicine to read charts for colon cancer or something like that. And the base rate of people reading the chart and detecting correctly was something like 65%. When they added AI into the mix, it did go up. So they caught like 75 or 80%. But then when they took it away, the same people who in the beforehand were scoring a 65 or 75% were now scoring like a 40%. Like it literally affected them in a way that made them bad at what they did. It made them dumber. That's my big fear about AI. And I use AI a lot. I'm in a digital space. We do a lot of writing. I do a lot of, I call it weaponized PR, aggressive PR. And, a lot of it's formulaic and you can only write the same thing so many times, like, no, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, right? So I've been using AI for almost 5 years now before most people even knew what it was. Like I was one of the people on the cutting edge, but now I've been passed by 90% of the people that are out there because it's ubiquitous and it's everywhere. But I do agree. I'm afraid it makes us a little bit dumber if we're not careful anyway. It has the ability to make us dumber. I have a really, really important question for you. This is crucially important. Who is your favorite fictional attorney, or do you have one?
Of course, everybody goes to Perry Mason. Not necessarily my favorite. I don't remember the character's name, but there was a TV show called L.A. Law, and I've seen the actor. I don't even remember the actor's name, but I've seen him in multiple things. But there was one guy, black hair, no facial hair. I just liked his presentation. He came across believable, but you could tell that there was a sharpness to his position, which I liked. Um,
Nice.
so think of Columbo, but as a lawyer.
Okay. Okay. No, I can picture that. I miss Columbo, man. I hope that I don't want them to reboot that show because you can't. But I wish it was still in like I'm sure it's on syndication somewhere, but I don't ever get a chance to see it. So I have to go
It was top notch.
go buy the season and throw it on the server or whatever. So, well, here in a minute, Dan. Again, I want to thank you for taking this time to talk with me. Here in a minute, I'm going to ask you my three closing questions. I'll give them to you now so you can percolate on them, and then we'll go over and take a look at your site. Because again, I want to be respectful of your time. You've already given me an hour of your day, so I really appreciate that. Question number one will be: if I give you a magic wand and you could change one thing about your practice, what would you change and why? It can be big and can be little. It's a magic wand, so use it wisely. Number two is if we go back in time, meet young Dana, and you're able to give him some advice, whether that fresh out of law school, what advice would you give yourself? And maybe by extension, somebody fresh out of law school today. Obviously, buy a lot of Bitcoin and hold it to 100K is a great piece of advice, but something a little more impactful maybe than that. And then number three is if I gave you my pen, and I have a pen right here. Speaking of sisters and monks and nuns, this is from St. Benedict's Abbey in Atchison, Kansas, where I live. It's a monastic community up here, and I think one of the priests must have blessed this pen because it seems to have magical powers or miraculous powers where it can strike a law from the books, edit a law that's on the books, or add a new law, but it's almost out of ink because I've given it to so many people. So if I gave you this miraculous pen and you could make one little change, what would you make and why? While you're percolating on those ideas, I'm going to jump over and take a look one more time at your site. Again, I'm talking to Dana Friedman of the law firm that bears his name, the law offices of Dana B. Friedman, attorneys at law, formerly of Kleinberg and Friedman, established in 1946. Dana is a civil litigator especial. He focuses on business, corporate, divorce, personal injury, and spousal issues, amongst other things. And of course, he is also Santa Claus. So if you have any questions or you want to get a hold of him, please visit his website. That is KF NYC, kflawnyc.com, or give him a call at 212-964-6622. We're going to go to read from our final sponsor of the day, and that would be Rank with News. Is not being in the news regularly costing your firm or your company credibility and visibility? Do you feel that getting found in Google search is more about dumb luck than science? What if there was a guaranteed way to get your law firm or your business featured in major national publications like Yahoo News, Bloomberg, Reuters, Forbes, EP, etc., and see those articles ranking nationally, locally, sometimes in under 8 hours for super competitive keywords that people are actually looking for? Well, what else would you need to know? Rank with News is simply the most powerful way to hit page one in under 2 weeks safely, organically, and permanently. It's like guaranteed SEO or search engine optimization on steroids, ranking quickly and sticking long term. If you're tired of poor visibility for your business, visit rankwith.news to book a time, learn more, and book a time to speak with a specialist about featuring your firm or your business in major national 8-figure traffic sites that can launch you to page one in a matter of hours and help you dominate your local marketplace. Get media exposure, rank higher in Google, build credibility, and win more customers and clients with rankwithnews.com. All righty, let me kill the screen here one more time. All right, so Dana, I have a magic wand, and with this magic wand, you can make one change to your firm. What change would you make?
First off would be my website. It's seriously lacking. We just haven't had the time to update it, and we will. That's just too easy a question to your answer to your question. What would I change? If I could wave the magic wand and change something, I think it would probably just be the ability to reach out to more people and more hours of the day and the ability to help others. I know it sounds very cliche, but that's the morals and the basis of the law firm. That's what we've always done. We're family lawyer. We've been, like I said, family lawyers, not family law, which we do, but we've been lawyers for families for multiple generations. Some of our clients are third generation clients. There's a reason for that.
That's awesome. That is huge, and again, it shows that you are one heck of an established firm, and you are an established anchor point in the psyche of a lot of New York City for a variety of reasons, which is just absolutely amazing. So, okay, question number two. Without breaking the space-time continuum, maybe we have some of that Santa Claus magic. I don't know, but we're able to go back in time and meet young Dana, maybe fresh out of law school. What advice would you give yourself?
I would listen. I would listen more. I grew up in a household where my father was a lawyer. My father's cousin, obviously, a lawyer. That's the Kleinberg and Friedman. They regaled stories of courtroom experience and litigation and just a case preparation. I listened then, and I kind of wish I listened more, although I don't know if I possibly could have, because it was 24/7. I got a lot of the experience that I received was just from hearing what they had to say and what clients had to say about them. Either the clients regaled stories to me. I don't know if they did it because, that's your dad, but just what people had to say uh, comes back. And there have been in times in case preparation that I could actually almost have a conversation with my now long deceased father about how to go about doing a case. When there was one case in particular where I woke up in the morning and for all intents and purposes, I had a conversation with my father in my sleep. And it was the right way to go on the case. And it was a very different perspective than I had gone to sleep with. So I would listen more if possible.
That's awesome. You're not the first person in the last couple of days that I've heard who's told me a story where they went to sleep believing one thing, had a very visceral dream, and woke up very much convinced of the opposite side or the opposite case or whatever. So I don't know if that's supernatural. I don't know if that's merely our psyche processing, or maybe it's a little bit of both. And I'm very open to either option. But it's fascinating that you're not the first time this week that somebody has told me a story like that, which is just fascinating. Of course, history, the Bible, religious traditions are all filled with people and dreams and visions and whatnot. So I'm very
Right.
much open to those sorts of things. I'm Catholic by trade, so I'm very open to the concept. But it's fascinating that that's hit me twice this week now. So who knows? Um, all right, third question, Dana. I have my miraculous pen here. And again, with this pen, you can change one law. You can strike it from the books. You can make a little amendment to it and edit to it, or you can add one new one. But there's not much ink left, so you got to be sparing. What change are you going to make and why?
I think because I have such a broad practice, I would go with the change of statute of limitations, which, for listeners who don't know what that is, there are certain time limitations in which things need to be filed, either with court or with insurance companies and what have you. I would lengthen the time limitation, not forever, but just expand out the time that people who are not necessarily savvy with law can file their cases and can get the benefits that they need.
Yeah. That's fair. Excuse me. Even something that would, because I know in New York City, if I'm not mistaken, like the statute of limitations for something like medical malpractice is just like a couple of years. Like it's from like the moment you're discharged. Like it's a really short amount of time. Which, if you don't know that, you're not aware of it. You're in the process of dealing with things and trying to live your life and everything else. You might not even think about it until a year and a half goes by, and you're like, oh, I should have done something about that. And it's like, well, sorry, it's almost too late at this point. And I've heard of a couple of those out there. So even if it's something that would change it so that it was based on the awareness of the individual, or I don't know how you would change it or just lengthen it. But I've always, and I understand the purpose of statute of limitations, because obviously if it's been 30 years or longer, there's no real way to prove things. All the data is gone, all of the evidence, the ability for somebody to defend themselves is much harder at that point. It's almost a hearsay case. So I get the concept of statute of limitations, but yeah, I've always thought it was a very uncomfortable concept to be like, well, sorry, you missed the time window. You're just, you're out of luck for the rest of your life because something happened to you that you were unfortunate enough to be on the receiving end of. So I think it's a good one. Well, Dana, thank you very much. Sorry, Dana, thank you very much for being on the podcast today. I do always like to let my guests have the final word. Are there any parting words of wisdom or last thoughts you'd like to leave our listeners with today?
Be, be good. That's from the Santa aspect. It's the role of life.
Better
Um,
watch out. You better.
just you better watch out. You better not cry, right? Especially when the verdict comes in. Uh, just be aware of your rights. Don't give up your rights, but staunchly protect them. And when in doubt, if you have questions, call your family lawyer.
There you go. Well, and that's the tagline of our show. If you don't know your rights, you don't have any. So, if you need help, please seek the advice. If somebody needs help from you, do they generally get like a free initial consultation? I'm sure if they're like, I think I have a legal issue. Can you help me resolve that? Like, there's no cost to that just to figure out if they have a case, right?
Correct. Yes. Yeah, we don't charge for an initial consultation.
Yeah. So again, if you need help, if you've got a problem, please reach out to get a hold of somebody. And that's actually what I will close with here in a minute. This has been The Attorney Post. I am your host, Justin West. As always, I've been chatting with Dana Friedman of the law firm that bears his name. And again, down below, we will have links to him, his mediation service, and hopefully his NewYorkSanta.org as well. Because God, that's just amazing. That's just phenomenal. That's going to be the high point of my day still. As always, though this podcast does deal with a whole host of different legal issues, this podcast does not constitute to legal advice. And if you have a legal issue, you should always seek the advice of a competent attorney in your area who focuses on the matter that you need help with. Now, obviously, if you're in the New York City area, you've got a civil litigation case of any kind, Dana sounds like he would be an amazing resource for you. So again, I would encourage you to consider reaching out to his firm at klawnyc.com.
KF Law.
No, shoot. I saw it wrong. I saw it backwards. KF, hence the F in Friedman. KF Law, KFLawNYC.com. We'll have a link down below. You don't have to remember this part. And I've already said it correctly 15 times in the show, so you guys can go back and listen to it. Listen to me say it correctly repeatedly. KFLawNYC.com, or give them a call at their number, 212-964-6622. As far as the podcast goes, or again, I think Dan would be a great resource for you. As far as the podcast goes, if you're watching this or listening on any of the podcast repositories, feel free to rate us. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, like, share. But the number one thing you can do to help this podcast grow is if you know someone who'd benefit from the knowledge in this podcast, please share it with them. Because again, you want to help them protect their rights, because if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. So help them get the knowledge that they need and help us grow this podcast even further. Until next time, I'm your host, Justin West, signing off. And thank you guys for listening, and have a good one.